So, ladies and gentlemen, you guys are in for a treat. And today we have the one, the only Ustad Syed Omair, Imam Syed Omair, Sheikh Syed Omair.
No, not that last one.
No?
No.
Thanks for coming on, brother. I appreciate it.
I'm very happy to be here. The treat is all here in the chai.
You like the chai? Is it
It
good?
is fantastic chai.
Yeah?
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, good.
Really.
You sure you're not just saying that? Because
I'm serious.
okay.
I will need a lot more.
Okay. All right. We're going to have to take a pause. But wow. Okay. I'm glad I got the approval from you. Yeah. So what's up with, I wanted to ask you about like identity, right? With whole like,
Yeah.
like we know each other, right? Like, and I think over the years I've gotten to know you, and you're a pretty normal
What,
guy.
do I know you? Where am I?
You're a normal guy, right? But like, what do you want me to like call you? Do people ask you that? Like, Imam? Like, are you a Ustad? Are you a Sheikh? Like, what? Like,
You know, I don't get asked that a lot.
Mhm.
What should I call you? You're probably the first person to ask me that.
really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm only asking because I know you, but
Right.
I also like I look at you as an advisor, as someone I can look up to, get advice from,
Sure.
right? So that's why I'm asking.
That's a great question because, like I said, no one asks. It's usually
Yeah.
just something is thrown out there, something is assumed.
hmm
So I get Sheikh a lot, I get Ustad. I don't use any of these titles myself. I'm not the type to promote myself like that. But
Master,
I mean, so even my first name, I don't use it.
wise one. Oh, Sayyid.
Yeah, I don't.
Because Sayyid's a title.
Right. So legally, my first, like, in my passport or whatever, my legal first name is Syed.
Okay.
But I don't go by that. Like, you know me, and anyone who knows me, I go by Omair.
Yeah.
Which is technically my last name.
hmm
But like in my line of work, which is, as you said, an imam at a masjid nearby,
Yeah.
it's always just imam, sheikh, ustad, kada, fulan.
Yeah.
Titles are thrown out. And I was actually talking about this with my wife. It was really interesting is she was asking me why I haven't like personally made a lot of close friends here.
hmm
You know, it's kind of weird for me.
You're
'cause
originally from New York?
I'm from New York. Was born overseas. I actually grew up in the Midwest, Chicago and Milwaukee.
Okay.
Went to New York at the last 2 years of high school and college.
Yeah.
And then I spent about 7 years overseas, again, in the Arab world. And yeah, one thing my wife was pointing out is in the Arab world, I had a lot of close friends.
Okay.
Work colleagues that became friends or just people that were living in my neighborhood. But ever since we moved back to the States, which has been about 3 years now,
Yeah.
and I've been in more of this imam type role, I haven't made a lot of close friends.
hmm
And she was asking why. And the answer I gave her was, you know, whenever people talk to me, there's always like an assumption that we have to have a religious conversation.
Oh, all right.
Everything has to be, oh, yeah, I was reading Quran the other day and I came across this ayah.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
Right. Yeah.
And it reminded me of a story one of my friends told me once. You know the great Qari, Abdul Basit?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Back in the day.
Big guy.
Super
Yeah,
big.
yeah, yeah.
Right? So I heard about him, like his personal kind of, his own personality, his personal life. And they said he used to joke all the time.
Okay.
And he would tell all the jokes,
Yeah.
like even the dirty jokes.
Yeah.
He knew
Yeah.
all of them.
Okay.
And people asked him, like, Sheikh, what are you doing? Like, what? You're this great Qari over there. And
Yeah.
then you're, you know, when we're around you, you have this
It's not
sense
befitting
of humor
or something.
So his answer was, you know what the majority of my job is? He said this. Majority of my job is going to funerals and reciting Quran.
Whoa.
And I'm so depressed. Not
Okay.
depressed, but like,
Yeah.
you know, it's weight.
Yeah, it hits you.
It hits
Yeah.
you. Exactly. So he said, I always just try to lighten the mood with jokes. Because most of the time I'm just around.
Right. Some serious stuff.
Serious
Yeah.
stuff.
It's sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's what I told my wife. And I was like, you know, anytime if I meet someone, even like I've met people at Costco, whatever, it's like, oh, assalamu alaikum. Oh.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
are you?
yeah.
I don't want that, you know? That doesn't, I'm not comfortable.
You're just a normal guy.
You're one of the few people I can be normal with.
Yeah. I mean, thank you. I think that means a lot to me because
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Sheikh. I appreciate you. Jazakallah khair.
I'm going to leave.
No, man, because I think that's a big thing. Because, like, okay, if I may just be completely raw with you, right? You look religious, right? Like, and I don't mean that in any offensive way. It's you, and it's a good thing, right? And so that's why I'm like, but knowing you, right, in terms of identity, right, being Muslims out in the West, right, oftentimes there's a lot of like, do I have to be that, right? Do I have to look like that, right? Like okay, I see this person, he's a good Muslim, right? Like, okay, because, you know, he's got the beard game, he's you know, wearing a thobe or you know, a jubba or a kufi, right? A hat. So this dude looks really, and I think maybe the same thing applies for the females, right? Like the sisters, right? It's like, okay, muhajjaba, niqabi, like, okay, you're like super uber pious, right? So I need to have all my conversations, or maybe like, dude, when I was younger, I was like, okay, I feel like I can't relate to you, right? Because you look different, you're probably doing different things.
For sure.
Over the years, as I got to know you, you had like normal habits, right?
Yeah.
And when we hung out at like Elevation Burger, right? Like this dude's dropping knowledge of like Lord of the Rings, Avengers. I'm like, and honestly, back in my mind, I'm like, wow, this guy's a normal guy, you know? And
He's not one of them.
he's not one of them, right? And I think maybe because I, you know, at a time in my life, I wasn't very, I hate the term religious, right? But just for the sake of brevity, right? I wasn't religious, right? I wasn't practicing, right? I didn't read namaz or pray or anything like that. And
I feel like most of us have gone through that growing up here.
yeah. And I think there's a lot to that, right? Like a lot of things cause that. Maybe you grew up in Pakistan and you had a bad time with some Molvi.
Shoved down your throat.
Yeah, right? Islam is shoved down. Sometimes it's used as a weapon, right? And I think...
guilt tripping.
Yeah. And then naturally, like I know like my buddies that I grew up with, I went to an Islamic school growing up, right? Like an Arab, proper Saudi school growing up, local. And so had this sort of innate, like, it was like lying underneath type of interest, but it wasn't like fully brought out, right? And then the folks that I hung around with, they were like actively against that, right? It's like, dude, oh, this Molvi, that, like all the Molvis are like this, etc. And then I think one of the really amazing things, you know, after meeting you was the fact that I can relate to you, that you're just like a normal guy, right? How do we, I guess, like, well, first off, thank you for being a normal guy.
It's really hard.
I mean, you have normal interests, right? You're not like, I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you're sitting in your house 18 hours a day reading like fiqh books.
No, not at all.
You know?
No.
Like you have normal habits, normal things.
If you were to go to my house right now,
Yeah.
it's still open on the computer. I have a YouTube video. Danny Carey, the drummer for Tool. It's a really heavy metal band.
Okay.
And it's about the polymeter that he uses in one of his songs. It's an analysis of his drumming. It's really incredible.
Wow. I would have never known. I don't even know what a polymeter is. What is that?
It's when you have multiple meters layered on top of each other.
Yeah.
So instead of doing like 4-beat or... So he has... I'll show you, man. I can't explain it.
Wow.
It's really cool.
Definitely not fiqh related.
No. But see, So, okay, we have a number of things we got to talk about now.
Yeah.
We start off with the dress.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I dress this way?
Yeah.
I would say there's 3 reasons. Okay. One, and this is going to sound weird, I think the way I dress is more American than the way, for example, you dress.
I think I know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
Well, what do you
I was going to say that just the hodgepodge of America, you can be whatever you want to be. Is that what you're alluding to?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the reason why I say that is because, so let me backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
For a number of years, I was trying to get into, I was trying to break into academia, it's like higher education and Islamic studies in particular.
Yeah.
And there's this really interesting moment that happened where I interviewed at, I was like a final interviewee at one of these big Ivy Leagues. And my interview went okay. I didn't get into the program, obviously. Probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But I met with some of the Muslim students after that were there. And they actually told me, like, hey, if you do get in, kind of beware of some of these professors.
Okay.
Like, okay, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And particularly, they were talking about the Muslim professors. And I was like, beware of the Muslim professors. Like, what are you talking about? It's like, yeah, you know. So there's this one girl, she was muhajaba. She was like, you know, his wife approaches me all the time and tells me, you know, if you're going to be in the PhD program, you really need to stop wearing hijab.
Oh.
Because it doesn't look right. Like, and we're in the West, and you gotta,
right,
you know, when in Rome kind of thing.
Right.
And
Well,
her
like acclimate.
Exactly.
Right.
And her response was like, no. You don't understand the West.
Okay.
The West is not about conformity. The West is about freedom of expression. Right? So you telling me that I need to dress the way everyone else dresses to blend in is actually not a Western mentality.
I see what you're saying. Right.
Right.
At the root of it.
At the root of it's not. It's conformity.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons I dress the way I dress, because I can dress the way I want to dress. And I mean, frankly, I find this more comfortable.
Yeah.
Just at the root of it.
Yep.
This is extremely.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm always wearing pajamas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though it doesn't look like people. I mean, I can't tell you how many. Like at least 4 or 5 times I've been walking around Costco.
Yeah.
The one here.
Yeah.
And people are like, where did you get that?
Oh, okay.
No, seriously.
Yeah.
Can you tell me where to buy that?
Yeah.
Like pull out their phone. Can you, like, what do I Google?
Turkey, Istanbul.
Morocco.
Morocco. Yeah. Nice.
And so I have to type in jalabiya and I have to spell it. It's happened at least 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. Nice.
The biggest thing that sticks out, believe it or not, is the hat. Americans don't like hats, especially not indoors.
Really?
Yeah.
Because that's counter to, I think,
outdoors
historically
is
speaking,
fine.
right?
True.
I mean, everybody
But you always
wore
take
hats.
your hat off indoors.
Right. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. So oftentimes I will go out without a hat. Most of the time, though, I will wear it. But yeah, to me, this is my American mode of expression. All right, that's number 1. Number 2, this is something related to what Imam Syed Omair, you know Syed Omair?
Yeah.
Zaytuna.
Yep.
One of the things he said was the way that we expect our Muslim women to dress, and then we don't do anything to support them, is a kind of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
I expect, I mean, not personally, but I'm saying, like, as a Muslim mentality, right? We expect our females, women, or our wives, our daughters, etc., to be wearing hijab.
Right. Yeah.
But I can go out dressed completely normally and blend in, right?
Yeah.
So from Imam Zayd's perspective, he was like, no, you guys need to show that you're Muslim. If our sisters are displaying their Islam publicly, then why aren't our men? And so for me, the way I dress is actually a form of activism. This is my activism.
Yeah.
Like on like a 24/7 basis.
Yeah.
Apart from the classes, apart from whatever other stuff I do.
Yeah.
Like I consciously make the choice to go out dressed like this. To show people that, hey, there are Muslims here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think,
And I forgot the third thing. But anyway.
Yeah. The thing is, I think modesty, right? Like, I don't think you can force someone to be modest, right? Like, and there's definitely a sense of like hypocrisy, right? And I think, I mean, I don't have any experience or whatever about hijab, right? But I think I would definitely not encourage somebody to do that. When I got my own problems, dude.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, like,
no doubt.
Seriously. And I think, especially when they're in that type of nature.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm going out, like, you know, I'm a buff guy, right? And I'm wearing like, you know, tight, and I'm just, you know, whatever. I don't think that's modest, right? It's, and maybe I feel good in my clothing or whatever, and maybe I'm not actively trying to show off, right? Maybe I just feel good. I think even then, I wouldn't feel comfortable telling somebody, hey, like, this is how you should dress.
Really, to be honest, I don't think it's the way you dress that makes you, like, hijab is just seen as a scarf, right? But if you look at it deeply, I mean, what the message is actually for both men and women, right? For men, what's your form of hijab? It's actually the way you act, right?
Yeah.
So the Quran tells you lower your gaze. That's your hijab. If you're not doing that, you got a problem.
You got a problem.
You know?
Yeah.
And also, actually, as Muslims, you know, we look at what our predecessors did and what our Prophet ﷺ did, and they always dress modestly.
Yeah.
Right? There's a standard for men and women.
Yeah.
But it's really an attitude, right? I could be dressed like this and then go out and do terrible things. And then I'm actually doing a disservice.
Yes.
To the way I dress, right?
Yeah. I'm not going to put anybody on blast, but like,
Sure.
I've had, okay, so full disclosure, I had, in my mind, I associated someone who looks like you as pious, and someone who, like the counterpart, right? Someone who wears a headscarf or a hijab as pious, right? And, you know, I was talking to this sister, right? And lady, right? And you know, she was wearing a headscarf and stuff, and things happened that I would never have expected, because I in my mind, right, I associated this person with a certain type of identity, right? And that was, I think that was wrong on my part, because I was like, crap, not everybody's like that.
Right.
Like you said, like, you could dress like this and do some crazy stuff on your own personal time that nobody may know about, you know? And that really was eye-opening for me as like a personal experience, that it's what you make it, right? Like, and that at the end of the day, it's really between you and your maker, right? Like, right? Is it not? I mean, like, it's not, I mean, yes, we should lower our gaze. That's a core component of that. But like the manifestation of the belief, right? It comes from something that I think is unseen.
Yeah.
Right?
It's an attitude.
Yeah.
So it's a way of living.
Yeah.
The image is, I mean, the exterior is just is the shallowest aspect of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
One of my favorite poets is a very disruptive Indian poet.
Okay.
From a few hundred years ago. His name is Kabir. You ever heard of Kabir?
No.
So Kabir, it's not actually known what he practiced, but I believe he was Muslim. But he was a very disruptive Muslim.
Okay.
What I mean by that is he called people out. Not like the cancel culture, that kind of thing, but like he would call out problems. So he has a great line about the beard. He says, oh, you've grown a beard, now you've become religious. Go compare yourself to a goat. He's more religious than you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, the image, and this is probably, we as human beings, right, we look like our sense of sight is predominant over a lot of our other senses. Right? So we do put a lot of weight into what we see.
I'll believe it if I see it.
Exactly.
Mm.
Seeing is believing.
Seeing is believing.
Right.
You can get into some really dangerous things if you don't know what you're talking about.
That's even a hadith, actually.
Mm.
Hearing about something is not like seeing it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but along with that, we're also creatures that make connections. We're logical creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Logic really is just making connections between things. So there's an association that we have, right? And I think as us, like you and I, you know, children of immigrants,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever you want to call us.
Yeah.
Like, I look at someone like my grandfather, right? And he, mashallah, beard, everything. I mean, he passed away 20 years ago or so, but I still remember the image of him. But very pious looking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he also acted piously.
Okay.
And then you look at what you're talking about, like the Maulvis and stuff, and they have the appearance, but they don't have the action.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's a dissonance in our mind.
Yeah. And I was one of my first jobs I used to work at Food Lion as a cashier, right? Cashier, bagger. I did all the the just the grunt work, right? Arranging shelves, mopping the bathroom, like the whole thing, right? And one of the times that I was a cashier, right? Well, this gentleman came in to the line, and he, like, I recognized this guy. I don't know if he recognized me, but he was outwardly looked very, like, religious, right? And I was a young guy. I was probably like 17, right? And it kind of threw me off, like, I'm like scanning his like groceries, right? It wasn't really groceries. It was just a pack of loose tobacco and like paper, right? I'm like, this guy's about to roll a blunt, right? Like, and it kind of threw me off, right? But I think Muslim identity is there a Muslim identity? Like, and what is that? I mean, I think like for me, man, growing up in college, right? And like with my upbringing, I was royally confused about identity. Like, okay, am I American?
Yeah.
Am I American or am I Pakistani? Am I Muslim? Like, what comes first?
Right.
Yeah. And how do I, behave according to what comes first?
Yeah.
I was, dude, royally confused.
I think this is more amongst, again, like our community, like South Indian, South Asian, whatever you want to call it. Other immigrant communities that have come to the United States, I feel like they have an easier time assimilating. Okay, even look at,
like Arabs?
No, I mean even like non-Muslims.
Oh, like Italians,
right. Or
okay,
even like
Irish
people that you don't consider white.
Oh, okay.
Say Chinese,
sure.
or So, you have Chinese friends?
Yes, like one. I have one Korean friend. I have two Korean friends, one Chinese. Yeah.
So I grew up with a lot of same Chinese, Korean,
cool people,
friends, of course.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing: you ever call them by their Chinese and or Korean names?
Never.
Right?
No.
Look at even the big stars we know. Jackie Chan. His name's not Jackie Chan.
Oh, okay.
His name's not Jackie. Right?
Yeah.
Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
That wasn't his name.
Yeah. One of my buddies, his name is Peter.
Peter. Yeah, exactly.
His name's not Peter.
So that's the thing. You're not Kevin, for example, right?
Yeah. I'm Kashif.
You're exactly. You're Kashif.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm not. Actually, I had an easier time because a lot of people just call me Omar.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a Latino name as well. So they always, even in high school, people would assume I'm Latino. Like, hey, Omar, ¿qué pasó? And I'm like, yeah, man.
Bien.
Yeah, I don't even know how to respond. Like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
When I was in Wisconsin, I was taking German.
Oh. You speak German?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not anymore.
Okay.
But see, like, our identity, I think, is still very much in flux. Like our particular community. Arabs, I think, have an easier time. Straight up, honestly, I think they have an easier time.
Why?
Partially because of their skin color. Partially because you will see Arabs, for example, take different names, like Mo and this and that.
Yeah.
I've met people whose name is Bilal. They go by Bill, for example.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
I've met very very few South Asians that change their names. I don't know why that is, but there's almost like a buffer to us assimilating. I feel.
Yeah.
So our identity, I don't think has crystallized yet in the West, right? That may have to do, I don't know, man. Like it may have to do with just history, because the thing also is that South Asians have been in the West.
What, like 30 years, 40 years?
Well, no. I mean, if you consider Britain the West, we've been here for 250 years.
Oh, okay.
Even longer.
Yeah.
And in those areas, like you go by your name. You don't change your name.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Pakistan's a great example. A lot of our politicians are educated in Britain.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, our founding father, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. But they kind of wore their name proudly, and I think though Britain, especially being in India for such a long time, they kind of had to accept that, hey, these are not just a people that will completely assimilate. I mean, a lot of people did, but like there's always kind of an Indian identity, so to speak.
But what about like a Muslim identity?
Yeah, so that's the thing.
Because that's cultural, right?
Yeah.
But what about like the Muslimness of it all?
So that's a great question. The Muslim identity as well, I think, has not yet crystallized.
Really?
Yeah. No, not at all. Partially because I think even back home, so to speak, the Muslim identity has not yet crystallized.
What?
No.
What are you talking about? Like, Islam has existed over there for thousands of years. Here it's what, like, I mean, they're the early folks that came, 200 years? Some of the slaves that came?
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So what are you talking about out east, so to speak?
Here's my point is we have a perception of religious people being what? Molvis.
Sure, yeah.
Right? Rigid, this, that, etc. Where does that come from? That's a historical phenomenon, right? Go to Karachi in the 60s.
Yeah.
Were there any Molvis?
I don't know.
No. People were out in the clubs, disco.
Yeah.
Our aunts and uncles probably shirt open and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Right.
No, Karachi was like a city of that entertainment.
Got the pants that flare out.
Yeah. No, for real. Like,
yeah.
Look at Karachi in the 60s. It's totally different. There seems to have been a global, I don't know what you'd call it, religious reawakening, or I don't know what it exactly is. It happened somewhere in the 80s. And then a lot of the same people who were in the clubs before, all of a sudden now are now I'm religious.
Oh, I see.
Namaz and go.
Yeah.
That's our parents' generation.
What caused that? Just in your opinion.
I don't know enough about it to say what particularly caused that, because it was a global thing.
Yeah.
Pakistan it wasn't just Pakistan in the 60s. That wasn't like that. If you go to Iran, Egypt,
oh yeah.
entire
with the revolution,
Muslim world.
Right. Yeah.
Culturally, we had totally become the other side. And then maybe it was the Iranian Revolution. I don't know, because that happened right around the same time, and people are like, oh, kind of freaked out.
Yeah.
And then there's this tide that goes over the Muslim world, and now we go way to the other extreme.
So do you think out west we're more closer to the identity?
So I think we're still forming our identity. I don't think we're there yet. Because in the East, like, the reason I say the East is also still in flux is because now you see kind of people. So we had two extremes, right? We're super liberal, and then in the past 20 years or so, super conservative. And now people are kind of shifting back and forth.
I see.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you have people now, they're like not namazi, like, even openly, like in Pakistan and other places.
Dude, I that's an interesting point you mentioned, because when you preface my experience with like going to an Islamic school, but like legit, when I say this, nothing was practiced at home, right? So I wasn't really like, I had the knowledge, but not the actual application.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, going through different phases, whatever, I was like, okay, you know what? Like, let me just learn about Islam, right? Like,
Yeah.
maybe it was because I went through I had my face dragged through the mud, right, so to speak.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, why the heck is all this happening? Let me learn about my deen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And part of that was influenced by somebody I hung out with at college. Really took me under his wing. Really cool guy. But so when I went back home, right, to visit family in Pakistan, okay, like I prayed, you know, and I wasn't like,
Dadi.
huh? Yeah, I started keeping a beard too,
Yeah.
right? And it wasn't like 5 times, right? But I will say this, man. For me, growing up here and then going back, bro, hearing the adhan, surround sound,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
what is this? This is amazing, right? But sadly, there's like 5 people in the masjid,
That's the thing, man.
right? And here, business idea for you folks, right? Some techie out there. Remember back in the day, there was these like azan clocks
Yeah.
that people had in their house?
Yeah.
And now obviously it's on our phone, right? But there's all this other nonsense on our phones. So someone should make something like a speaker in their house that you can't, once it's installed, you can't uninstall it, right? And you just have adhan play at the normal times. Because for me going out there, I was like, dude, what a soothing thing, right? And then I would just go and pray. And like my some of my family members wouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I would get this comment like, Molvi ban gaye ho.
Exactly.
You're a Molvi now. You're a
Yep.
Maulana, right?
Right.
You're a sheikh.
Right.
You're a religious guy. I'm like, no, not at all.
And that's my point. Exactly. That's exactly my point.
Yeah.
Our religious identity, whatever, even in back home, is still in flux. It's not there.
But I don't know.
So you know, the people who appreciate the adhan are people like you and I. When I went to the Middle East, exactly what you're describing. I went to the Middle East, hearing the adhan, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Hear the
Yeah.
adhan all the time. Like, wow.
Did you watch this video on YouTube about the adhan and how it affects the body?
No.
Oh my God, it's so dope. This guy, I don't know who the people are. It's like a 3-minute long video.
Huh.
And these guys analyze the audio of the adhan.
The audio quality.
Just the audio,
okay,
like
yeah.
the waves,
Oh, wow. Okay.
right? And I don't know what the device is that they use, but they show like music, right? And like there's these like waves, and it's just going bong 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 bong, dun, 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 right? All this like crazy stuff is happening on the waves, and the guy's like, "This is what happens to your body when you hear these beats, right?" Like, and he's like, that's why babies, right? When you play a drum around them, they just naturally start rocking, right? And then he played the adhan, right?
Interesting.
And I don't know if this guy's a Muslim guy or whatever, but he played the adhan, no movement. There's like, not to say that it's not affecting you, but it's not like,
It's like the opposite of the drum.
yeah, it's like peace. It's like serenity, right? It's like almost like submission.
Weird. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's a guy
Yeah.
reciting the adhan, the whole thing,
Yeah.
right? At different parts, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha, like the whole thing. It's just the wave. If there's like a line, the waves don't go beyond it. Whereas everything else does. And me hearing the adhan back home, I was like, man, we don't have this over there. I don't have this, right? I only listen to adhan when I go to the masjid before the namaz.
Yeah.
That's when I hear the adhan. Or like I hear a preview of it on my phone if my phone's on loud, right? On ring.
Yeah.
Other than that, I got a little, because my phone's mostly on silent, I got a little notification, Dhuhr time.
But so you and I appreciate the adhan, right? But I had the same experience you had, is where the people that were living there and hearing it all the time, it's almost like tuned out. It's almost like they don't notice it. A lot of people, because as you said, the masjids there are mostly empty. Right? 5 people maybe show up for a prayer, and even then it's the older people. It's never the shabab, like the young guys. So that's what I'm like. you have literally in Jordan, when I lived there, there's literally almost a masjid every 2-3 blocks.
Yeah.
And they're all empty. Except for Jummah, maybe.
Right.
Jummah is like, oh, yeah. Everyone's going to go for Jummah.
Yeah.
But all the other prayers, like, forget it.
No. So how do we tackle that?
So that's the thing is, like
we as in here, being out west. Like, I don't, honestly, like, I'm not trying to sound like a D-bag, but, like, they got their own problems out there. You know? I'm not, like, I live in the DMV, right? I got my own issues. I got my own challenges. Like, I'm talking about here, right? How do I, or even a younger person, right? How do we address these types of challenges? Where does it start?
So,
especially like youth.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what my job is, actually. Part of my job at my masjid is I'm a junior imam or deputy imam, whatever you want to call it. But I'm actually the youth director.
Yeah.
And that's actually what I feel my job is actually helping the youth navigate what is Muslim identity.
Yeah.
Right now. Like, you know, you here in the DMV going to George Mason or whatever, like,
yep.
What's your identity? And, you know, like, even the conversations we're having now, like, we don't talk about clothing. We actually talk about intangibles, right? So I have, like,
like what, like conceptual stuff?
Conceptual stuff,
like, okay.
So every night we actually do a halakha.
Okay.
Monday to Friday. And it's me, like, we're actually on a gaming platform, which is hilarious. We use Discord.
Okay.
So we were going to do a Zoom account. Originally, I didn't have access to a Zoom account because you have to buy the channels and stuff.
Yeah.
So one of the youth is like, hey, we use this gaming thing called Discord, and it's free, and it's voice and screen share, whatever. I'm like, okay, sweet.
Yeah.
So I'll actually log in, and sometimes I see them playing video games. It's really fun. But it's cool. Like, hey, man, this kid is in the halakha.
Yeah. But
I can see, you know, playing Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. At least it's not
doing Call of Duty, and you can listen to me. You know, like, talk about. But yeah, we talk about, like, so we talk about things like spirituality. How do I become closer to God?
Yeah.
We talk about things like, you know, so you get, you know, a lot of the typical questions. Why is this haram? Why is it haram? What's the wisdom behind this? What's the, you know, this and that. We talk about family. Like, a lot of these kids are college kids. Like, they're just entering college, and so they're starting to think about marriage. They're starting to think about family. We talk about politics. And we talk about, you know, conservatism versus liberalism. And, you know, I have my own political views, so I give my viewpoint, and then I hear back from them, etc.
Yeah.
But see, like, these types of discussions, it's really interesting is that I don't have these discussions with older people. I have these discussions with the younger people. Older people are not on this. A lot of the older people, parents especially, is like, my daughter's not praying. Get her to pray.
Yeah.
My daughter stopped wearing hijab. Tell her something to make her wear the hijab again.
Right.
I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm not going to call up, hey, Beti, listen, I heard you're not wearing hijab anymore.
Yeah.
You better start wearing it.
Yeah,
okay, sure.
Right.
Not going to happen.
Doesn't happen.
No?
Doesn't work that way.
Yeah. But the youth, man, like, so the reason I say I'm helping them navigate is because they're already creating their own identity, right?
Yeah.
Whether you and I realize it or not, we've already made an identity, right? But it hasn't crystallized. What I mean by that is when I see you outside in the street, or I see you walking in Costco or wherever, I don't know enough about you,
right,
to know, okay, he's religious, he's not religious,
right,
he's this, he's that.
Sure.
So the telltale signs aren't there yet, right? With a lot of Muslims, I probably can't even tell if they're Muslim or not, right? Especially if they don't have a beard or anything like that. So actually, my default assumption when I'm at Costco is like, okay, I see...
Like when you see a brown guy without a beard.
I'm like, I'm not going to say anything because I don't know. Yeah, unless I see a muhajib or something like that.
Sure.
That's a telltale sign.
Yeah.
But for guys, like, I don't know. You know? So I don't want to make a mistake and be like, Assalamu alaikum to Sanjay, you know?
Yeah. Sanjay who has a beard.
Yeah. So, but see, for our youth, like, for the kids I've actually grown up here, and I grew up here. I wasn't born here, but the kids I've born here, grew up here, they are in the process, I would say, of building an identity. And for some of them, it's actually like more conservative. For some of them, it's more liberal.
Mm-hmm.
But they haven't finished, right? The process isn't done yet.
Yeah.
We have Muslims all across the spectrum.
Yeah. I think like a lot of the confusion of identity comes from lack of support, right? Like, I mean, I've said this before on this show, that I was inclined to memorize the Quran.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody told me, nobody forced me, nothing. Like, I went to a Islamic school Monday to Friday, bro, and I went to Sunday school, right? It was pretty intense, but like, I was actually drawn more to the deen in my Sunday school class, which was not part of the masjid. It was like this separate uncle who kind of held it at someone's house, and may Allah preserve him, he's a pretty cool guy.
Sure.
And like, you know, I still remember the first day in the class, we just happened to have like a little test, right? He's like, instead of saying, hey, you didn't take the class, whatever, you don't have to take the test, he's like, take the test, right? I took the test, I got a pretty good score just because of my like schooling, right? And then, you know, just being a part of it, I just felt supported in that environment with that uncle, right? Really cool guy, man, just down to earth, right? Would make jokes, he's like a Pathan, right? And just really, really understanding, right? Because he had a bunch of wild kids to deal with. And then, you know, one day I'm just like, Uncle Khan, he was a Khan uncle, right? It's like, Uncle Khan, I want to memorize the Quran. He was like, whoa. He's like, that's amazing, right? I was like, yeah, like, thank you, right? Like, yeah, like, you got to teach me, right? I'm drawn to it. Like, I want it, right? And, but I think for me, the confusion came when I wasn't supported in my house.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I told my parents I want to memorize the Quran, and it was like, what are you going to accomplish doing that? You know?
Go study.
Yeah, go study. And I was like, okay, it's weird, kind of weird, right? Because I'm like, bro, you're the one who put me in that class. This is the result. I mean, I'm saying this now. I didn't think this then.
Yeah.
But I'm like trying to puzzle it together, and it's not fitting.
There's dissonance.
So what the heck is that? Like, it's you're gonna put your kid through some schooling, right? And there's some results that come out of it.
Yeah.
But you're not approving of the results.
Right.
And then you get confused. Like, okay, well, am I Muslim? Like, how do I become Muslim?
Yeah. See,
Lack of support.
one thing I'll give credit to American kids. I don't know kids in Pakistan. I haven't really interacted, but one thing I can definitely say about American kids, and I would include myself here because I grew up here.
Yeah.
We can see BS a mile away, and smell it a mile away. You know, like you and I can tell if someone is two-faced or saying something and doing something else. Like, we recognize that, right? Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah. I mean, I think people overseas are definitely a lot sharper, for sure.
You think so? Oh, I don't know.
Oh, dude,
So,
my
I'm
younger
not sure.
sister, who's back home right now, bro, she'll eat you alive. Like,
If
you
she
know?
sees a dissonance.
What do you mean?
Like, if you tell her to do something, but you don't do it yourself, will she call you out?
Yes.
Okay,
most definitely.
that's good. That's
Right.
good. Yeah, I don't know that. But
I mean, and maybe that's just my sister, but I think when you ask my siblings, because, you know, they spent the last 10 years or so in Pakistan.
yeah,
And bro, they can tell, like, they're street smart. Right? Like here,
yeah, for sure.
I feel like there is some credence to what you're saying about being able to tell nonsense. But in my experience, people overseas, like, you know, they got that street knowledge.
That's
right?
good. That's really good.
And they'll call out BS. I was my younger sister. This is a few years back. I took some gifts for them, right? And I had taken, like, so I have like 3 siblings, right? So I bought them like backpacks, like new backpacks. I was like, like quality backpacks.
Yeah.
Let me just take some backpacks for them. They're like getting into a new school and whatever. So I take them backpacks, like JanSport, right? And different colors, whatever. And in my mind, right, I was like I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to give this to this person, this to my brother, and this to my sister, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, my sister's probably going to like this one. My brother's probably going to be okay with this one.
Yeah.
And my youngest sister's probably going to choose this one, right? Complete opposite, right? And my youngest sister, she takes the one that in my mind I was like, oh, my older sister or eldest of the bunch would take that. And she just she snatches it and she's like, this is mine, right? And I'm like, don't you like this one? Like this, look at this, right? I was like presenting the other one to her. She's like, I said what I said. And I know what I want.
Nice.
And I was like, I couldn't help but laugh, right? Because the truth of it, she's like, bro, this is what I want.
Yeah.
What's wrong with it?
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't say a single word after that.
Nice.
So, but coming back to identity.
Well, let me tell you the reason why I said,
Yeah.
sniffing out BS.
Yeah.
So the example you gave was perfect of you wanting to memorize Quran, you coming home, not finding any support. And you're like, now your Muslim identity is like, wait, I thought this was something we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right? So when I was in high school,
Here,
yeah, New York, and had made some friends, Muslim friends, and our parents knew each other, family friends, and so there was this young guy. Oh, parents are like, hey, that masjid over there, this young guy's come, but pada hua hai, he's very religious, he's very knowledgeable. We're gonna put you guys in a class with him Friday night or something like that.
okay.
And so, they take us and we're like, okay, well, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
My friends and I, we weren't particularly religious at the time. We were just normal,
Yeah.
Rap and basketball and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Nas.
Nas for sure.
Yeah.
I still don't like Jay-Z.
Pac. No. Jay-Z, he had some bangers, but nothing deep like Nas or.
Yeah. But
yeah.
real stuff is that MF Doom stuff. You know MF Doom?
Bro, you dropping some knowledge I don't know of.
He's your rapper's favorite rapper.
Wow. I'm gonna have to listen to that joint.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. But man, so we're in this class. And we don't know this guy. Studied 2 years in Saudi Arabia, whatever.
Yeah.
Came back. He's giving bayan after, the prayer to the uncles and stuff. And
Okay.
like, okay.
Pretty serious stuff.
Then we go to the basement, the class.
Yeah.
And we don't know. We're not religious.
Yeah.
We weren't like, okay, what book are you going to teach us this? He just starts teaching us.
Sure.
And immediately we're like, this guy's a fraud.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like, I think it's the first,
What made you think
first
that?
or second class. He's like, yeah, you got to work hard. You got to get into Jannah. You know what's in Jannah? The whores.
Oh my God.
We're like,
Oh no.
what?
What is this guy talking about?
Yeah. And we're like, wait, what do you mean? He's like, the ladies, man.
Yeah.
All these ladies in Jannah. And we're like, is that really like why you're worshiping God so you can
Yeah. Like
do
that's your
that?
that's your
Exactly.
motivator?
And then he starts giving us all these weird fiqh things, and it's like, I can't even repeat it, like disgusting stuff. It gets into like all the details that you wouldn't get into right away. And
Sure.
we all like bounced. We're like, we don't want to go back to this guy. No, but he's very, parents are very parawa,
Yeah.
uncle set it up and, you do this and that. We're like, no, you don't know like
Yeah.
what we're experiencing in class. Right?
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, a few months later, we got like our parents were actually like paying him like $100 or something a month or something like that. He took all that and just went overseas.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And this was me this was me before all this.
So what did you think of Islam or Deen?
So that's my point. It's like we all smell BS.
Yeah.
Okay, something's off here. Something's wrong. This isn't right. we could tell that, and we actually went and called it out. We're like, no,
Did you associate that type of behavior with the dean?
back then, yeah.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So how'd you overcome that notion that, okay, this is not what my dean's like?
So that also for me was in college.
Okay.
And it was, so I mean, I come from a, fairly religious family, I would say.
Okay.
My parents they pray, they never went through that phase of like not praying. My parents actually like made me pray with them even when I was a kid.
Cool. Good.
Not like, forcing me, but like, namaskar time, like come on.
Come on. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I always grew up kind of, that. And, Sunday school, same thing. Like went to Sunday school and reading all these books and blah, blah. Like it was one great book, What is Islam All About? By Yahya Amrik. We read that like 5 times.
Okay.
So although I wasn't very religious, and especially through that experience, I was kind of like scarred. I feel like, okay, yeah, I'm a Muslim. I know like what it is to be a Muslim.
Yeah.
When I got to college, like I said, I wasn't particularly religious. I was hanging out with everyone.
All sorts of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I took a class. I took a class on Islam. And I was like, easy A, It's going to be simple.
Professor Chittick?
Chittick.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
I didn't know him.
Wow.
I was like, oh, Islam, it's going to be easy class. 5 pillars. Yeah, I got all that stuff.
Yeah.
The Asr, 4 rakats here and this and
Bro,
that.
by the way, that book you recommended?
Vision of Islam?
No, the one before that.
Which one? Me and Rumi?
No. Keep going.
Science of the Cosmos?
Boom.
Great book.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Eye-opening.
Yeah, I'm forever indebted to Professor Chittick.
Yeah. So what? Like you took his class and what?
I took his class and I was like, this is going to be easy. And the first day I'm like, I'm sitting there in class and he's talking about stuff
And you're a Muslim guy.
And I'm Muslim. And there are other Muslims in the class.
Yeah.
6 or 7 of us.
Yeah.
And we have no idea what he's talking about.
Okay.
And I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Something's wrong here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my defensive wall's going up like, did I not learn any of this?
Yeah.
So he's talking about
this? Yeah.
tanzih and like, the crux of everything is tawheed and the oneness of God. And so I'm like, wait, no. I thought it was the 5 prayers, man.
Five
Five pillars.
Yeah.
That's so he's going like on a much deeper level.
Yeah. The essence.
Yeah. Not the what, but the why.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that.
And so when that happened, I was like, bro, I was in a crisis. I was like, have I even been Muslim, this entire time? Or have I just been pretending to be Muslim?
Yeah.
And I went with that second answer. I was like, yeah, I think I've been pretending up to this point.
So how did your friends like treat that experience?
So
or the other people that were in the class with you?
Yeah. So let me preface the answer by saying that the school I went to was kind of notorious. Stony Brook University in New York.
Yeah.
In those days had a very wild MSA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like we had people doing crazy stuff. A lot of it, alhamdulillah, was actually before I got there, but like these were not, your typical, let's do an event at school. They're like, we got to go protest. We got to go do this. And you're a mushrik and you're this and you're a kafir. And there's a lot of that kind of stuff. That most of it was gone before I arrived.
Yeah.
But some of it was still lingering there. So you had these types of guys in class and they're like challenging Chittick.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
Yeah, you think you know this,
Yeah.
What do you know about this person? What do you know about this? What do you know about this? And Chittick would automatic just answer all their questions, destroy all their questions and arguments.
Wow.
One of the most hilarious things he used to do.
Hold on one second. You hear that, right?
Yeah, I hear that.
I'm going to go see what this is all about.
Sure.
So you were saying a bunch of students challenged Chittick?
Chittick, yeah.
Okay.
They would kind of make it a point. We got to go and challenge him.
Okay.
We know Islam, he doesn't. So, and he would always just demolish their arguments. And my favorite thing that he used to do is like when he was taking attendance at the beginning of class, he would say people's names.
Yeah.
Right? And some of the Muslim kids would be like, that's not how you pronounce my name.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, no, I'm pronouncing your name the correct way, not the wrong way that you pronounce it.
Oh, wow.
I was like,
Yeah. Like what?
I don't remember the name. I'm trying to think of them, but it's like I can't think of one right now. But he's like, yeah, this is the right way to pronounce it.
Wow.
So he's just demolishing them, right? And eventually these guys stopped coming.
Yeah.
Because for them it's like, oh, why is this white man teaching us Islam?
Oh, wow.
You know,
okay.
We're the Muslims. He's not a Muslim. Why? So for them it was a problem. I mean, he knows his stuff, man. You don't want to get into an argument with Chittick.
So is that what got you into, like, got your interest?
He definitely.
You studied in Jordan, right?
It's the same car.
Yeah. I think it's going to die out.
Yeah, we
eventually.
can wait if you want.
Yeah.
You know, my kid does that sometimes. He'll take the key and he'll accidentally press the... Okay.
I think that's probably what's happening.
Probably.
All good. So is that what is William Chittick?
Yeah,
what
Chittick.
kind of
So, I mean...
got you involved
whatever people want to say, I'm forever indebted to Professor Chittick and his wife, Professor Murata. They taught together at the same university.
Yeah.
And I took all their courses, like as much as I could. And yeah, they set me on, you know, for them, the next step was like, you're really interested in this?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, okay, you got to go learn Arabic. You're not going to get anywhere without Arabic. And my initial plan was to go study Arabic for 6 months. And I stayed for almost 8 years because I never felt like I got good enough.
Yeah.
I still need to learn more. And I still feel like that.
So you went to Jordan?
I went to Jordan. So I went to...
So how was that conversation with your parents? Okay,
so
I gotta go to Jordan.
That's the really strange thing is... So the first conversation I had was with my dad where I told him I'm not pre-med anymore.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big one.
That's
and
a
he
big
was
one.
like... I literally remember where it was, where I said it. We're driving the car, coming back from college. And I remember he actually had to pull into a parking lot and be like...
You got a tupper on,
what do
didn't you?
What do you mean? I was like, I'm not. I can't do this. It's not. Okay, so he's like, so what are you going to do? At that time, I didn't know. So I was like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe law school, maybe this, maybe that. But I'm not doing pre-med. I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And he actually kind of understood that because he also didn't go down the pre-med route. Even though my uncle is kind of in the medical field, or he was before he retired.
Yeah.
And all my other relatives are in the medical. But he was actually an engineer. So he kind of understood that. He's like, okay, so then you have to be a lawyer. I'm like, I don't know yet. He's like, no, you got to pick something. And
right.
And like went on.
Yeah.
The Jordan one was a lot easier for some weird reason. And I think only, a gift of God. But like, I just told my parents 2 weeks before my flight.
What the heck?
I'm like,
you booked your flight?
I didn't book it.
Okay.
I told them and I booked a flight for 2 weeks after that. Okay. And I was like, hey, I want to do Islamic studies. I want to be a professor. That was my goal back then. They're like, okay, we'll talk about this blah, blah, later, and stuff like that. They kind of delayed it for a while, and then it was like, hey, if I'm going to do that, I got to go study Arabic overseas. And I actually laid out the financials for them. Like, it's not going to cost that much compared to a semester at school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This and that. And I think I told them at the beginning of December, in the middle of December, it's 2009.
Yeah.
And I was on my flight.
Wow.
Yeah.
To Jordan.
Their goal was, okay, actually, I'm very thankful that they supported me in this, but their goal was, if you're going to do this, you have to become a professor from like an Ivy League.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it has to be the prestige, right?
Yeah.
It has to be there still. But it's like, that's the only way we're going to let you do this. And I'm like, okay, sure. And so I went.
Wow.
So 6 months go by. I'm not ready. I need another 6 months.
So you went there to study Arabic?
For 6 months, originally.
Not like Islamic studies?
No, just Arabic.
Wow.
Another 6 months go by. My Arabic's still not there yet.
Who's telling you it's not there yet?
I can tell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because I for me, it was like, I have to be able to pick up a book and actually read it and understand it. I wasn't there. I wasn't even there after a year. So, but I had to go back to finish my last semester. So I went back to finish my last semester. I took a course with an Arabic professor there. I still didn't feel comfortable enough, although he's like, yeah, you're doing fine. So no, I'm not. Went back and talked to Chittick and Murata, and they're like, they actually said, yeah, you're probably going to need about 5 years.
Whoa.
And I was like,
that's intense.
Like,
it's a long time.
Yeah. Luckily, This time I managed to go back as an employee. So I didn't go back as a student.
Oh, okay.
I went back as an employee at the place I was
Being
studying.
taught. Yeah. Okay.
So that's how I managed to stay for so long. I was actually I was making money. Enough to live there.
Sure.
I don't have to save up or anything, but enough to live there. And alhamdulillah, I had a very supportive wife.
So those professors helped you find a program over there? Or you found it yourself?
No, I actually don't remember how I found it. I think one of my cousins had told me about it.
I know Turkey has like a bunch of programs that like...
They do, but they're more like... It's Arabic, but it's very theoretical. So a lot of Turks actually go to Jordan to brush up on their Arabic because they understand the grammar, but like the practical application is not quite there yet until they usually go overseas and they come back.
And this is not like modern standard Arabic.
So the place that I worked at, Qasid Arabic Institute, they primarily do teach modern standard.
Okay.
They also had a classical program.
Okay.
The modern standard program is very strong there. And it's actually, if I was to recommend someone to go study Arabic now, I would actually recommend them to go study modern first.
Okay.
Because it gives you more of an immersive kind of entryway into the Arab world.
Yeah.
And from there, it's a lot easier to learn what you might call classical Arabic. Whereas if you're starting with classical Arabic, like I did, and like many of my peers did, we struggle in the modern world.
Why? Because
I'll know...
Classical is not spoken, right?
It's not spoken, so I know very archaic words. And if I'm on the street talking to people, they're like, what are you talking about? You know?
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's what I recommend now, is I tell people, go study modern first, and then study classical.
So how was that coming back?
Coming back here?
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm probably skipping a lot.
Like 7 years later?
Yeah.
You know, it was...
What made you come back? Why did you want to come back?
Well, so we were having our son.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It was family, really. And my parents kind of had enough. Okay. Go do that thing you were going to say. You know, you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
Start college or start, your PhD now.
Yeah.
And I tried, like I said earlier, I tried for a lot of years. And I don't know, man. I actually think, like, in a way it was good it didn't work out. Because I was a final interviewee or whatever you call it at a lot of these big schools, like a lot of the Ivy Leagues. Somehow it always just didn't work out. And back then I was obviously extremely frustrated. But now I look back, I'm like, that's probably right.
Yeah. Probably a good thing.
I'm happy where I am now. And if I had started that, we wouldn't be having this conversation either. Yeah, so we came back for family reasons.
Yeah.
It was tough to adjust, It was I'm not gonna lie, like I still to this day miss aspects of Jordan, of the Middle East. I miss the adhan. I miss being able to walk literally less than 100 steps to the masjid. Seeing all my friends after prayer, like you gather around the masjid, just talk, chit chat stuff. I miss being able to go to like big gatherings, Quran recitation, whatever. Like, I miss all that stuff.
Yeah.
At the same time, like, it's really weird. Like, even in Jordan, I don't fit in.
Oh, why? Because you're a brown guy?
No, because I'm.
What?
Because I dress like this. Because I'm.
Oh,
Molvi. Even in Jordan, you're a Molvi. Yeah.
Whoa.
I remember. So you can see my hair is long.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The time in Jordan when I had even longer hair than this.
Wow.
And this is a sunnah, by the way. That's why I have my hair long. But I remember going to a store once, like a grocery store, whatever, and like this little Arab kid comes up to me. He's like, "Why do you look like a girl?"
What?
I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
It's like, "Why is your hair so long?" And I was like, "This is actually sunnah."
Yeah.
He's like, "Why are you dressed like that?" Like looking like I'm wearing a thobe, Why are you dressed like that? I was like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "Are you one of those weird people?" Like straight up, he's asking me like the types of questions we associate with Molvis. Exact same types of questions. So the analogy that one of my friends made there, it's like, when we dress like this, even in the Middle East itself, it's like the equivalent of how you and I would see like an Orthodox Jew walking down the street.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of what it's like.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even in Jordan, like, I mean, I had my religious community that was in that, you know, they're also normal guys too, but like we were all like committed to learning Arabic and this and that.
Yeah.
It was great. But within the larger society, we didn't really fit in.
Mm.
Although, you know, you'd get the time to time, like, mashallah, brother, like, so great, this and that.
Yeah.
So happy, you know, you're doing this. But it was weird, man. Like, it's, even their identity is a problem. I honestly, to get back to our discussion of identity, I think the entire Muslim world is in an identity crisis. Everywhere. Because I don't think we've figured out how to navigate Islam, and I don't think it's culture. I don't think culture is the problem. I think it's Islam and modernity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've figured out how to navigate these two. I think for us, in our minds, there's always a clash. And by modernity, I don't just mean technology. I mean politics. I mean, you know, the political spheres that we exist in right now. It's just this whole kind of package that comes with modernity that I don't think we've figured it out yet. And so, to get back to your original question, like what's our identity here as Muslims, right? So I did a long reflection on this over a number of years and through a lot of experiences that I've had since I've been back and dealing with Muslims here. And, you know, in Jordan, in my community that I lived in, you know, we were talking about Arabic. We would actually talk about like fiqh stuff because people knew
over there.
Yeah, like people knew these things.
Yeah,
because we were all studying. Right?
Yeah,
so we'd be able to talk about these things.
Yeah,
and I came back here and I'm like, ooh, no one knows anything about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that number one, that was the first big shock. I was like, okay, religious literacy is way down.
Yeah,
and that's not anyone's fault here. It's just because most of us here don't have the tools to access that. We don't have the language, and we don't have the teachers.
Yeah, but the desire has to come from somewhere.
So the desire is there. Like we have the desire, we don't have the tools.
Okay.
Right. Whereas there, at least the expats that I was living with, the expatriate community of Muslims, we were from all over Canada, U.S., England. A lot of us were actually brown, right, living there. We had the desire and we made that sacrifice to go live over there and actually acquire the tools. So we were able to discuss. So here, when I came back, that was the first thing I noticed is like, I mean, I'd always known it in the back of my mind, but it never actually like clicked. It's like, okay, here, there's a lot of Muslims. Many of them literally cannot read the Quran.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that was big
huge
shock to me because I was
huge.
like, wow, I had forgotten that almost. Right. But, you know, they still pray their namaz. They still do all their stuff.
Sure.
And, you know, they have whatever interests they have, cars or basketball, this or that, whatever. Fine. Then, you know, I have more experiences. I meet more people. I see more of the things that are affecting our communities. Ultimately, this is where I am right now. And I'm sure this is going to develop more and change in the future. But, like, if you were, you know, today, like, what is my view on Muslim identity? My reflections have probably led me to the point where I believe Islamic identity or Muslim identity, what does it mean to be a Muslim? I actually think that to be a Muslim, first and foremost, you actually have to be a good human being. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because
I think a lot of people would fall in that category, right? A lot of people are decent, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
The reason why I say that is because if you look at the biography of our Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he also dealt with similar people. He dealt with a lot of people that couldn't read, couldn't write, just like himself, right? They were farmers, they were shepherds, they were simple people. Like, we think of the Sahaba and we're like, oh, they're the Sahaba.
Yeah.
All of them were scholars. All of them were. No, they weren't.
Yeah. They were normal people of that time.
Majority were farmers
and
shepherds. Normal
Merchants.
people of the time, merchants.
Yep.
Yeah. Majority of them probably only memorized maybe a juz, maybe less, maybe more.
Yeah.
Amongst the Sahaba themselves, the Prophet said, go learn the Quran from these four.
Yeah. I mean, there are some Sahabas that...
Four people out of how many thousands?
Yeah.
Go learn the Quran from those four.
I mean, even when you think about it, I mean, Allah in His majestic ways, there are some Sahabas that died before the entire Quran was revealed.
Yeah.
Right.
There's Sahaba who died before they ever prayed a prayer.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Like that guy who converted at before Dhuhr, and he died in that battle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't mean disrespect by saying that guy. I just can't.
No. I know. So that was a major thing for me. I was like, maybe our desire for super religious literacy is not correct. And what I mean to say is not that it's not correct, but it's like maybe that's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And then historically, like that's what I actually like. That fit actually what we see in history. The majority of people in Muslim lands in Muslim times were simple people.
Mm-hmm.
They had their plot of land or whatever. They farmed. They did this. They farmed dates. They were shepherds or whatever. And really, all they did was the basics. Right? Read Quran. If they could, maybe they only knew a surah or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever. They would just recite that. And they would pray their prayers. They would go to Jummah. If they were wealthy enough, they would give their zakat. And that was the majority of their lives. And
also, I think they implemented what they learned, right?
To the extent that they could.
But
right? For a lot of them, where were they implementing it? They were just at their farms.
Right. I mean, like, so for example, like, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ.
Oh, yeah.
إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Like,
yeah.
So it's like, okay, if I verily mankind is in a loss, right? By the time mankind is lost, except those who do this, exactly. And this, right? And it's like, okay,
hey, they took it seriously.
They took it very seriously.
The little that they had.
Yeah.
But they applied that very little into their worldview.
Yeah.
Right? They probably realized, hey, we're never going to become ulama, the scholars.
I mean, I don't think they even had this idea in their head.
Yeah. For them, it was like, okay, I have a question. What do people do now when they have questions? I have a question. Google. Let me find all the different opinions on it. I'm going to choose this one.
Yeah.
No, back then it was like, I got a question. Okay, let's go ask the Imam. The Imam says this. I go do that.
Yeah, dude. What's crazy is I think when you talk about modernity, right, and Islam and our identity, oftentimes I feel like we're trying to mold it to what we want.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, I guess, and I think part of it has to do with just being real with yourself, right? And it's like, I really want my wife to wear hijab. Like I really want her to.
Yeah.
I think it looks beautiful on her. I think, X, Y, and Z, whatever the reason. Look at these verses.
Yeah.
Right?
Look at this one hadith I pulled out.
Right? And it's like, look, I mean, come on, you got to. It's my responsibility as your husband to make sure that you go to heaven, right? Or whatever.
Let me give you a real life practical example that I just saw like 2-3 days ago. Muslim social media convert owns a dog. Going through everything to try to justify why owning a dog is correct. There's nothing wrong with it. And by the way, there are some schools of fiqh that tell you that dogs are pure. They're not najis, and that's actually a majority opinion of one of the schools. But even then, there are hadith to tell us that they still shouldn't be kept indoors, though. This is because they're not clean animals. They shed and they poop and they do all that stuff. Yeah. Whatever you think about it, really, whatever. But so this convert, okay. What does this person say? This person says, let me show you why dogs are not forbidden. And they say, in order to justify their argument, they say a lot of people will quote Bukhari. Bukhari is just great. The ultimate hadith collection, blah, blah. But Bukhari disagrees with her opinion. Her opinion is dogs are fine. Bukhari says no. And Bukhari justifies it with hadith. So what's the person's response? The person's response is, well, actually, the hadith of Bukhari cannot all be correct. They cannot all be sahih. It's logically impossible because there's contradictions. Like some of the hadith tell us the Prophet was 60 when he died. Some of them tell us he was 65. Some of them tell us he was 63. So there are contradictions. Therefore, they can't all be correct. Right.
It's not a very valid argument, but...
No. Especially because back then, like, we are projecting our lifestyle to back then.
Yeah, and that's not the way to do it.
Yeah,
that's not the way to do it.
We have precise calendars. You know, you were born at this time on this day and this...
And just because there's a discrepancy...
Yeah.
Does not necessarily mean that it's inaccurate, or that
the more logical thing is people. You're in Arabia.
Yeah,
people don't know how to read or write. You expect them to remember the exact number of years when someone was born?
No.
Like they say he died at 60. Why? Because they're rounding down. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that the way they used to, before the calendar was implemented, it used to be how like a major event, right?
Yeah,
like they
that's
used
what
to
they
record
tied
years.
Exactly.
Okay, that's the year of the elephant when the elephant situation happened.
And even
right?
that's not like an exact number of years.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So what? This person
so the person, to justify their position, what are they saying? The entirety of our hadith corpus is subject.
Oh, subject to what? Like just your interpretation? Like what your...
My opinion is more valid than hundreds of years of scholarship.
And this is like, I think when people talk about scholarship, I think it's important to emphasize, like in your mind, like this is to everybody out there, like when you think of scholar, right? Like, okay, this dude or this sister is a scholar.
Yeah.
Like that means that this person is an expert or close to that, right? Like, for example, if you ask someone who has a master's in economics or a PhD in economics, right? Or both, and you're like, hey, how much do you know about economics? They'll probably say a little bit, like, enough, right? They won't be like, I know everything, right? Because it's like the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
So if I was to ask you, so this is a great conversation about scholarship, just really quick point. Who is the most celebrated scholar in the Western world of anything?
I'd say Darwin.
Darwin?
I don't know.
I would probably say Einstein, right?
Okay, yeah.
Everyone knows.
Sure, yep.
Everyone.
Einstein.
Even if you know physics or not, you know E equals MC squared. All. You know it.
Yeah.
He's like the scholar. Physics, master, this, that, relativity, whatever. Okay. Einstein lived when? About 115 years ago. Died only about
short time ago.
Years. Short time.
Yeah.
Sure. Einstein is like the pinnacle, right? Then maybe the next most famous might be like Hawking. Right?
Sure.
Okay. Those people are at the top of their field. The very, very, very top. Right?
Yeah.
And that's in over the span of a century, right? When we talk about Islamic scholarship, we're literally talking about figures like Einstein for 1,200 years.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's a really big deal.
People, I mean, I totally agree with you. It's not, people make it a small thing.
Yeah.
Oh, Islamic scholar. Like they just kind of glance over the word scholar. It's like, no, bro. Like these guys spend their entire lifetime. Literally. And their like their progeny and their predecessors. Like it's a system of scholarship, right? And really, like, that's huge.
To be an Islamic judge, like to be the head mufti of a country or the head qadi of a country is literally like being on the Supreme Court here. Like that's how big of a deal it is.
Like it takes a lot of effort to get there. Yeah. A lot of work, a lot of
it's not just
knowledge, a lot of
pick up a book. Oh, I've learned Islamic law. No. Not at all.
Yeah.
That being said, a lot of people do have a disconnect with Islamic scholarship. Sure, without a doubt. Just like you and I wouldn't be probably able to have a normal conversation with Albert Einstein.
Right?
No. because he's operating on a different level.
Way different wavelength.
Right?
Yep.
So there's always been a medium between Islamic scholarship and the laity.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That medium is people like imams.
Mm-hmm.
People who are the students of these high caliber scholars, but who interact with the daily, day-to-day people.
I see.
The problem now is we've cut the entire system apart. It's like, no. It's no longer top down. It's no longer the imam, the qadi has made this decision about this and this and this, and this is what you should practice. Now it's like, no. Who are you to tell me? Right?
Yeah. I got my...
Here's a single hadith.
Right.
I'm pulling out of somewhere.
Yeah.
Which shows how you're wrong.
No.
Great.
That's crazy, man.
Please enlighten me. What's the context of that hadith? When was it revealed?
Yeah.
Is it late hadith? Is it early hadith?
Yeah.
Who was it said to?
Yeah.
Is it specific? Is it general? If you're so knowledgeable about hadith, tell me the grade of the hadith. Right? You can't just pull something out of somewhere. That'd be like me going to Einstein and be like, oh, Einstein, man, you're wrong. Relativity doesn't make sense because the first law of thermodynamics.
Right. Yeah. I think context is huge, man. Context is everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, when you talk about ayahs, right? And like you can talk about order of revelation, right? The time, like the chronological order of revelation versus how it was structured, like the book itself, the Mus'haf, right? Like from Fatiha to Surah An-Nas, like there is tremendous context that is applicable
to everything,
to every single thing.
Yeah.
Like you can't just, and don't play games.
Don't play games.
Don't play
Absolutely.
games. It's like you're only playing yourself, man. Seriously.
But the interesting thing
to
is
justify, like, oh well, hey, did you see in the Quran? It says that women are like cattle.
Yeah. So therefore.
So like, what does that mean, right? Like, you're just taking it out, right? And for whatever.
It doesn't say that, by the way.
Right. I know it doesn't. what is it? Harth? What's the word?
They're your tithe.
Oh, I don't know what that word means.
They're literally like your harvest.
Yeah, and there's a different meaning to that, right? But a lot of folks, you just are playing games, right? People who don't know, Muslims, right? Like who want to adjust Islam to the modern society, and however this sort of, I don't want to call it agenda, but like, this sort of initiative, right? That, okay, you blow wherever the wind goes, right? Like you just sway wherever the wind goes. Right?
Well, that's modernity, man. That's where the clash is, right? Modernity is on the outside. It's control to you. Right? You have the power. It's a bottom to top approach. And it's an illusion, by the way. But it's like, I am the consumer. I make the choices. I choose what I want to buy. I do this. I do that. This is all part of me. I'm a Mac person. No, I'm a Android person. I'm a this. I'm a that. Whereas people aren't looking at it from like the bigger picture. It's like, okay, you have an illusion of choice. I'm proud of my identity as an Apple user. Okay, great. You made a choice out of two. Great.
Right. Yeah.
I drive domestic cars. Okay, great. You've chosen out of 24 car companies that most people buy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wear Polo. Great. Out of a select number of choices. You're only given a few choices.
I gotta throw my Polo gear out.
No, that's fine.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying, like, we view that as power, as control. I have control over who I am. Not really. I mean, you have control over a very limited number of choices, and yet you think, this is me. So why can't I apply that to religion too? Right?
Yeah. And I think identity...
Or now, the recent trend now, why can't I apply that to even medicine? I mean, go argue with my doctor.
Oh, yeah. This is my diagnosis. I know what I want. Hey, listen, I need Z-Pack.
Yeah, exactly.
Z-Pack. Like, dude, you don't have... we have a viral infection. You need to take some Advil.
No. WebMD
Yeah.
told me this.
Yeah, it's like I'm the consumer. I'm paying you,
Yeah, exactly.
right? So if you don't do what I need you to do, I'll go find another doctor down the street.
Exactly. So we have Islam top down.
Mhm.
Supreme authority is Allah.
Yeah.
Then the Prophet ﷺ. Then whom? The Prophet himself told us, the ulama.
Mm.
Because the ulama are what? They're the inheritors of the prophets.
Mm.
Right? Top down.
Yep.
Modernity, opposite.
Mm.
Right? Bottom up.
It's crazy.
Clash.
Wow.
That's why I think we have a problem.
I think the only, just speaking from experience, I think the only way for someone who's struggling with identity is to really understand and really go deep down inside and say, I don't know, Jack.
Yeah. It takes some humbleness.
And it
takes some humility, sorry.
like, it's Allah, right? And it's not going to happen overnight, right? Like, just figuring out your balance, your identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's okay to be Muslim.
Oh.
Like, hello.
You reminded me.
What?
So, getting back to that question of what should our identity be,
Yeah.
my reflections.
Yeah.
So, being Muslim, you said the exact words, right? What does it mean to be Muslim?
Yeah.
Okay.
What does it mean?
For me, at this very moment right now, right, September 2020.
Best month of the year, by the way.
Yeah. Best year ever.
Best year, 2020. Hindsight is 2020.
Being Muslim right now, to me, it literally is no different than being a good human being. That's all. That's really my conclusion. Okay? Well, let me tell you why.
Okay.
Okay. There's a tiny amount that religion adds to a normal human lifestyle that is extra. That doesn't really belong in our lifestyle.
Bada bing, bada boom. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what it is. I'll expand on that.
Sure. Yeah. So we have a few things that are extra.
Mm-hmm.
Prayer. Okay.
Yeah.
Zakat.
Mm-hmm.
Fasting. What are all of these things? They're actually forms of sacrifice to God.
Yeah.
Sacrificing your time, sacrificing your money, sacrificing your appetite, your desires, etc.
Yeah.
They're really measures of check, right? But the rest of Islam, what is the rest of Islam? It's just living a good, normal human life.
Yeah.
And what do I mean by that? What does Islam want from you and I? Islam wants you to be honest.
Yes.
Who doesn't want honesty?
Right.
Islam wants you
To have integrity.
to be respectful,
Yep.
to be a good spouse,
Yep.
to raise a good family, right? To be, courteous, like all the normal things that anyone in any human society wants. That's what Islam wants for you.
But I think also to that point, right? Like, yes, I see what you're saying about being a good human being, right? And, one of my teachers said in a very interesting way, and it kind of clicked, right? He's like, Islam, a lot of people think it's halal and haram, meaning this is prohibited, this is, allowed, right? And it's just that. If you follow this, you'll be okay. If you don't do this, you're in trouble, right? And that's a lot. That's the way a lot of folks go about living their life, right? And some people, find justifications, mental justifications to do whatever the heck they want, right? But he put it in a way, he's like, bro, Islam, you can do everything you want, except a handful of things. Like, he's like, you can do whatever you want, but there's a few things that actually are there for your own benefit.
Right. And that's the what. Why? Why a handful of things? The handful of things that we are not allowed to do as Muslims, or that we should not do. My point in saying all this is to say those are things that any human being would say that this is not good to do. But it's paired by action, right? So like you can't just be a good person and not be a Muslim. So right, like of course
I'm talking about Muslims.
Yeah, that's the sacrifice. That's the secondary aspect. But like the majority of people don't want you to steal from them,
Mm-hmm.
or to sleep with their wife, or to murder their children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who wants that?
Right.
What society
Yeah.
wants that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the bulk of Islam is really just the human fitrah, right? The what we as Muslims believe is the natural disposition of human beings, which is just to be good people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of it is what? The rest of it is the sacrifice. Sacrifice your time, sacrifice your wealth, sacrifice your appetite,
Yeah.
learn restraint.
Yeah.
And then the capstone on top of all of that
Mm-hmm.
is a mental exercise, which is recognize where all of this is coming from. And that's the difference.
Mm.
Right?
Allah.
That's what makes you a Muslim.
Yeah. And dude, Professor Chittick, man, in that book of Science of the Cosmos,
Mm-hmm.
what blew my mind away was, it's kind of like something I kind of knew, but couldn't kind of put it out there like in words. This whole concept of takthir versus tawheed,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like takthir meaning plenty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot, versus one, like oneness,
Right.
right? And the fact,
Oneness and multiplicity.
yeah, and we're living in a culture, in a time, in an era where multiplicity is
Yep.
king.
It's everything.
It's everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, not really, you know. Like
Right.
I think oneness, like this whole thing. Okay, random side note. Multitasking, right? I think multitasking is, you can do it, but you're not going to be really good at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're watching a video, but not really, and you're kind of doing something else on your phone and whatever. That may be considered multitasking, but if I quiz you on that video,
Yeah.
you know, or quiz you on something else, probably not going to be really good. Yeah. That's, you know, you're multitasking right now.
Who likes that? No one likes that.
No one likes that. And I think, and it's a principle of, I think, economics even, that, hey, like you want to efficiency, right? You want to allocate things that are like due their appropriate time,
Yeah.
right? Like it's something you have to put in that service to that thing, right? And I think the biggest thing is really tawheed, man. Like it's everything. I definitely vibe with everything that you're telling me, and at the end of the day, it just boils down to service to Allah and service to like humanity. So like, be a good person, right?
There's a
Like,
very interesting theory
yeah.
on the word insan in Arabic. Where does the word insan itself actually come from? You know, Arabic has roots.
Yeah.
Right? So everything is connected to a root in some way or another.
Like a 3-letter root.
3-letter root. Yeah. So, just to get to the point, insan, right? What is the root of insan? There's different theories about it. The one I like the most is insan comes from the root uns in Arabic. Anasa, uns. What is uns? Uns means intimacy or connection, right? Familiarity. Everyone wants familiarity with something. They want to feel like they fit in. They feel connection. Right? No one likes to be. People might like to be alone, but people don't like to be like actually alone, right? Lonely, right?
Yeah.
Lonely versus alone. People don't like to be lonely. We want to fit in somewhere.
Yeah, we want to feel love.
We want to feel
Intimacy.
love. We want to feel connection.
Support.
So, people now, for example, Muslims, you know, young Muslims now, they start drinking. Okay. If you really get to the why are you drinking? Is it because this drink is delicious? No.
No, that joint burns going
Have
down.
you ever smelled beer?
Yes, it smells like piss.
Yeah. I grew up in Milwaukee. Miller.
Oh, Miller Lite.
There's parts of town where like the air just smells like beer. I went to concerts in Milwaukee when I was in my youth.
Yeah.
There's a huge, actually great concert series called Summerfest that takes place in Milwaukee right on the lake.
Yeah.
Bands from all over the place. I've been in concerts where literally people throwing beer all over the place.
Yeah.
It smells like garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So why don't some kids drink beer?
Fit in?
To fit in.
Mm.
I want to be cool.
Mm.
I want to be able to hang out with these guys. I want to do what they're doing. I want a connection.
Mm. And that could be based, I mean, fitting in, career growth, assimilating.
Everything, yeah.
Right? Like, let me just do what's happening, right?
Plenty of Muslim professionals. Yeah, when we go to our business meetings, they'll just say, you got to drink, man. It's just part of the culture.
But I think sometimes people might do certain things to not just fit in socially, but maybe because they're having a pretty cruddy situation at home. Or, they're just like, okay, I met these guys and they seem really cool.
Yeah.
But like I'm fighting with my mom or I'm fighting with my dad or my siblings. And next time you get offered a little, drinky drink with Bob.
So
right?
when did alcohol become the solution to that, though? When did alcohol become the solution to
in that scenario
problems at home? It's part of our culture.
What do you mean? Like drink your life away?
Exactly. Why do people like that idea of like the depressive drinker? Yeah. I want to forget. I don't want to think about these things.
Yeah.
That's not, you and I didn't grow up learning that.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't in the back of our heads. We learned that here. And drink to escape your problems.
Liquid courage.
Yeah, exactly.
You need liquid courage? You don't have actual courage?
Exactly. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And if you're fitting in one place, you're usually not fitting in somewhere else. Right?
That's true. That's so true.
You're trying to fit in here because you don't feel like you fit in there.
So what would you, because you have, mashallah, a very unique experience, right? And I think a lot of young folks, right, could definitely benefit from that and seek comfort in that, okay, this guy did it, I can do this too. Especially for the young cats that are religiously inclined.
Yeah.
Religiously inclined.
Sure.
Right? Like they want to pursue knowledge, right? They want to go out and learn Arabic, like learn X, Y, and Z, Deen, Fiqh, etc. I think that's great. But also paired with the fact that you grew up here, New York, right? Like in America, right? Michigan.
Wisconsin.
Oh, Wisconsin. It's close, right? They're close.
Close, yeah.
That's close.
Wisconsin is on Lake Michigan, if that helps.
That confuses me even more, but so what would you tell somebody who is on either end of the spectrum? The someone like a young Omair, right? Versus someone who like maybe a young Kashif, right? Who is just like, all over the place.
They're not too different. Those two, by the way. Right?
Yeah.
Probably would be friends.
Yeah.
The same person.
Yeah.
What would I tell that person?
Yeah.
Start with the basics. Okay. In religion and in humanity.
Like what?
So, very simple. If you're living with your parents at home, in your room, wherever, you're playing Xbox, doing this or that, probably not communicating much with your family, do a really simple thing right now as you're listening to this. Go ask your parents how they're doing. Simple. Go talk. Have a basic conversation with your mother or your father, whoever, right? Help around the house. Right? People ask me, because I like the topic of Islamic spirituality, Tasawwuf, Sufism, whatever you want to call it. Like I've had people ask, as if I'm not an expert on it in any means, but like as if people ask me, what's the first step? Tell them the first step is learn to clean your room. Right? Why? Well, the Prophet told us, tahara, cleanliness. It's shatrul iman. It's a major branch of your faith. You can't learn to be clean. How are you going to learn to do anything else? So, first step of Islamic spirituality: clean your room.
Yeah. Wow.
Right.
And it'll just kind of.
Yeah, it'll build.
Oh, I gotta ask you one thing before we end.
Oh, it's almost time to end.
Tell me about.
We're gonna need more sessions.
We're gonna need definitely, inshallah. I want to remember that time we were at the burger place.
Yeah, Elevation,
and you told me about this story about this shawl that you had, right? And then you gave it to someone, or someone like.
Oh yeah.
What is that about? Tell me about that.
I don't know. Honestly, it was a really weird experience.
Yeah.
I don't know what was behind it.
Yeah.
I gave, so I'd invited some people to my house for dinner and, you know, like a religious kind of gathering, reading Quran and this type of thing. It's very common in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Amongst religious people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this one particular person that I wanted to invite was this, mashallah, very like righteous, pious person. And this was in winter. And Jordanian winters are brutal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't associate that with the Middle East.
Right.
Winters are cold.
Okay.
It's bone-chilling cold.
Wow.
Not because it's actually like super cold outside. It's not as cold as it is here, but the houses are
everything
made out
else
of stone.
Right.
There's
yeah,
no insulation,
exactly.
no
So
nothing.
You feel the cold.
Yeah, you feel the cold all the time.
Yep.
It's cold in the evening.
Same thing like Pakistan.
Yeah, exactly.
Houses are made of cement. There's no insulation.
No insulation.
Yep.
So I gave him my shawl.
Yeah.
This person to just keep warm.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, I was like, okay, you know, he'll wear it and just while he's here, and then he'll leave it as he leaves.
Yeah.
But as the night was ending and he was getting up to leave, he kept it on, and I was like, okay. And he starts walking out with it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, he thought I gave
It's a
that
gift.
to him.
He
Yeah.
thought you okay.
Yeah,
I mean, he didn't say it. He probably just
he assumed it.
yeah.
But actually, that's part of the culture I didn't kind of understand at that point. But that, like, if you give someone something,
Mm-hmm.
you're actually giving it to them.
Got it.
So you got to be careful about that.
Right.
So he thought, okay, it's my shawl now.
Sure. And you see this guy walking out.
And yeah, and you know, he turns to look at me, and I'm just kind of like fidgeting. I'm like, oh dang, like,
Yeah.
man, that was my favorite shawl.
Hmm.
It was actually a sentimental shawl to me.
I see.
And he looks.
You
at
didn't
me,
tell that to him.
I didn't
obviously.
tell anything.
Okay.
And he's like, "What's wrong?" Well, nothing. You know, thanks for coming. No. What's wrong? What's wrong?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't say anything. I just kind of brushed it off. And so he goes, and then he comes up to me, and he takes his hand and he puts it on my heart.
Hmm.
Just really quick.
Okay.
And he's like, "Oh, I got it." Takes his shawl off and gives it to me.
That's crazy. What?
I don't know what that is. I don't know.
That's intense.
Me and my friend, when my friend was there,
And you didn't say a single word.
nothing. My friend was
You
there.
didn't even look at the shawl.
No,
Wow.
I was looking at him.
Mm-hmm.
My friend was there with me, who's also American.
Yeah.
And afterwards, we were just trying to analyze what happened. Like, I was like, I didn't tell him anything. He's like, did he just read your mind?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're sure, like,
yeah.
and we just like were bugging out for like 10 minutes. We're like,
Yeah.
what just happened?
He did that Doctor Strange thing to you.
Yeah, yeah. Really.
Wow.
It was so weird.
That's profound.
But you know,
Alhamdulillah.
maybe that's some later spiritual
Yeah.
thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But spirituality, honestly, is really it's really basic, man. Like, honestly, things are so, we turn it into a huge thing. It's really, really basic.
Yeah.
I've met people who have met the Dalai Lama, for example.
Mm-hmm.
One of my professors in college, I think he's the first one he's one of the first people that put me into this mode of thinking. But he's like, when I met the Dalai Lama, he was Christian, by the way. He's like, I was expecting some crazy...
The guy you know, not the Dalai Lama.
Yeah, the professor that I had.
Right. Is Christian.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's like, I was expecting some crazy like monk, like he's gonna be jumping off the walls and
Right.
I mean, he's gonna be levitating and some crazy stuff. And he's like, yeah, he wasn't like that at all. He was just like a kind of like a normal guy. He was like asking everyone, oh, how you doing? How's your family? How's this? So he's like, for him, that clicked. He's like, mysticism or spirituality, whatever, it's not becoming more crazy. It's becoming more normal.
I see.
Right? And that's actually something we see in the Sirah, in the biography of the Prophet. So like, when people would come to Medina, he would just ask them like, hey, how are you? Where are you from? Who's your father? Your tribe? Oh, you're from this area. Oh, and amazing thing about the Prophet is he'd actually speak to them in their dialect.
Yes.
So you imagine someone coming from Alabama and talking to us, and like we
got a
would
twang.
Yeah, we would pick up like the accent and start talking to him in his accent to make him feel like that. That was
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, so tell me about your family. Tell me about this. Tell me about blah, blah, blah. It's like normal conversations.
Relatability.
And then just a tiny bit there. The dawah. Like very quiet.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, I'm the messenger.
Right.
You're going to listen to me.
Yeah.
But see, that's what we experience, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Islamic school or in the masjid or in the Maulvis, and they're doing the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah. Brother, man, I appreciate you coming on.
Part one.
Part one.
Of more.
Many more, inshallah.
It's a good conversation. I'm
glad you came, man.
Invited me. 2 weeks late.
It's okay. Really. I'm really, really sincerely happy that
my
you came.
stomach let me. I would have come 2 weeks earlier.
It's okay. It's all right.
We got to do more.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think a lot of people have...
Also because I didn't answer any of your questions yet.
You really did? Oh, okay.
I've been keeping track.
I have many more.
But identity is a big topic, man. Like we can't do it in 2 hours.
And you know, that's I'm glad you said that. Really. Because that's one of the... that's why this whole initiative was... It's like going on 3.5, 4 years. Okay. And I was just like, man, I just want to help people. You know, I really do, because I want to help somebody, like, particularly because I want to give somebody who doesn't have the access or support or the empowerment, right? Like that, you know, I lacked at different times. Bro, you're having a crap situation at home. Talk to me about it.
Yeah.
What's up? You know, and
that's very prophetic, by the way. This is exactly what we need.
Yeah. I mean, it's identity, right? It's like, hey, who am I? Right? Bro, there's so many, you know, Sibghatullah, right?
We cannot learn our identity if we are not intimate with one another. I'm saying that that insan.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn more about myself by talking to you rather than just me sitting at home by myself, right?
Yeah.
The connection is what makes us who we are.
And
if we don't have that, you know, if it's just your mind running wild all the time, like you're not going to get anywhere.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And you play tricks on your own mind.
And that there's a hadith that confirms that. The Prophet said the Muslim is the mirror of his brother. Right? The Muslim is a mirror for his Muslim brother. So we need this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need this just as much as we need, you know, our masajid or whatever.
Yeah.
We need real talk. You know?
Yeah. Real talk. Just at least get the conversation started.
Yeah.
Right? So,
absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Let's get more chai.
Let's get more chai. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it, really.
Thank you so much.